Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Sallamu Alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May the peace, mercy and blessings of Allah be upon you. This talk is a talk that I presented in the UK, and it's titled Culture, Religion and My Journey to Islam. The reason I gave this presentation was first and foremost for the purpose and sake of Allah, God, as a way of showing my gratitude for Allah to show me the way to Islam and the blessings He has provided. I also wanted to show the positivity and simplicity of Islam and how anybody can embrace the religion and become a Muslim. Finally, I've also been inspired by other people who are willing to take the time and effort to talk to people about Islam, and I hope that my talk can do the same. In terms of my cultural background, if we look at culture first of all, myself, my parents and my two brothers were born in England, but my father was born in Cyprus, on the northern side, which is the Turkish side. My mum was born in England, but me and my two brothers both were born and grew up in England. None of us were brought up to not believe in a God. I mean, we didn't grow up in atheism. We grew up believing that there is a God and a supreme being who created whatever we see around us. But we didn't really, and myself included, didn't really know anything about religion. So the topic titled Culture and Religion and My Journey to Islam, well, if we look at first of all the definitions and what we know about culture, religion and Islam, let's look at the differences first of all between culture and religion. For example, if I said Merhaba, nasılsınız, Türk kahvesi içer misin? Now only a Turkish speaking and understanding person would be able to comprehend what I've just said. Essentially I've just said hello, how are you, and would you like to drink some Turkish coffee? Now a statement like that for me oozes with culture, because first of all the language is in Turkish. I've asked if anybody would like Turkish coffee, which is something that a Turkish somebody within the Turkish culture would appreciate and like to drink. So in a particular room I wouldn't get a huge amount of response from that unless you knew and understood Turkish. However, if I was to start by saying, as I did in this talk, Assalamu Alaykum, I would get a much greater response from anybody from any part of the world if they were a Muslim. Now, looking a bit deeper at culture, there's so many definitions, and I can just give one of them. For example, an excellence of taste in fine arts, humanities. There are other words such as language, traditions, food, art. In 1952 I found I found that in 1952 a book was published called Culture, A Critical Review of Concepts and Definitions by Alfred Kroeber and Clyde Cluckhorn. Now they compiled 164 different definitions of culture. So next I looked up religion, and I was hoping to find something a bit more definitive. Unfortunately that wasn't the case. I found a number of definitions from different sources, dictionaries, websites, books and so forth. I'll just give two of them here. One of them being a set of beliefs concerning the cause, nature and purpose of the universe, and another definition for religion being human recognition of a superhuman controlling power, and especially of a personal God entitled to obedience. When looking up the definition and understanding of Islam, things are a little more definitive, and I found that Islam is mentioned in 4 places in the Quran, and looking at different sources, no matter which source I looked at, I found the same definition, where Islam is an Arabic word which means submission and obedience. Submission is accepting Allah's command, and obedience means putting Allah's command into practice. I also found that a slightly more in-depth description of Islam being that Islam is a complete way of life. It is guidance for all mankind from Allah, the creator of the universe. But essentially, in terms of a definitive definition, Islam is the Arabic word which means submission and obedience. So there should be no dispute on that. So a Muslim is a person who accepts the Islamic way of life and submits to the laws of Allah. So in terms of my particular journey, I remember back in university being asked about which religion I was, and in which time I responded, I'm a Muslim. Now I remember being offered to attend Jummah, and I didn't really know what Jummah was. Jummah being the Friday prayers that Muslims are required to attend every Friday. So obviously at the time I didn't attend because I didn't know what it was or what to do. I didn't even understand the concept of Bismillah, which is in the name of Allah. Now you notice I started this talk with Bismillah, and it's something that Muslims begin with when starting any action. Now all I knew at the time growing up was that I couldn't eat pork or bacon, but this was, I put this down to culture, not religion. You know, I understood this to be a cultural reason rather than a religious reason. Pretty much I understood the concept of life to be living the way you wanted to, as long as nobody was getting hurt in the process. My first direct interaction with Islam was in Cyprus when I was about 16 or 17, and I remember very early in the morning being a very loud call, which at the time I didn't know what it was, and I put it down to some really important information being announced, because I didn't at the time realise that this was the call to prayer, the adhan. So what changed in my life to mean that I now follow Islam and I am a Muslim?